RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Iron Debate, brought to you by Redcon One. Visit redcon1.com. Redcon One, presenting sponsor of our coverage of the 2019 Arnold Classic. I'm your host, Steve Faruqi. We are joined by our panel of experts, Chris the Technician Aceto, Fouad Abiad, and of course, the man with the final word on all topics from our Cape Coral studios, Dave Palumbo. So this episode, we're going to talk about Classic Physique. And the big reason for that, this past weekend, George Peterson claiming the 2019 Arnold Classic Physique title. And it sparked all sorts of debate as far as what exactly is Classic Physique. Can George Peterson be considered, quote, Classic Physique? Coming into the show, there were many who said that, well, George Peterson might be cut out better for the 212 division, more so than a Classic Physique competitor. Well, before we go any further, our producer Tyler is going to play a clip from this past weekend. Shortly after winning the title, Dave Palumbo was talking to George Peterson, asked him flat out what exactly Classic Physique is to him, and he gave this response.
I appreciate it. Because when it comes to this word classic, a lot of people feel like there's one definition for it, but I feel that there's more than one definition for it. I mean, you have a Frank Zane's classic, Arnold's classic, but you also have Flex Wheeler's classic. Sean Ray to me was classic, and these are different physiques.
Look at Franco Columbo.
Yeah.
I mean, we consider that a classic physique from the back end of the day, but he was thick as a house.
Thick as hell, exactly. You remember that last spread of his? I mean, crazy. So right now, I'm gonna say on camera, right? This victory here is a testament that classic physique, you can be classic and have muscle at the same time.
Well, you certainly proved it tonight, and by beating Steve Laureus, I think you also kind of, sometimes you have to validate yourself in this sport. I don't know why, because as far as I'm concerned, third place twice at the Olympics should do it. But I think the Arnold win here definitely cemented, at least in the fans' heads, that you're for real.
Absolutely, and
so there you have it. So George Peterson talking about the different types of Classic Physique, that Classic Physique has different shapes and forms. Chris Aceto, let's go to you first on this one, because you have worked with a lot of Classic Physique competitors ever since the division was announced. You look at George Peterson, let's talk about him first. Is he Classic Physique, and what about him makes him, quote, Classic Physique?
He's got a small waist, and he meets the height and weight requirement. There's different varieties of Classic Physique, just like there's different varieties of pizza, but I think when I think of Classic Physique, I think of like golden era Classic Physique, where the lines are very distinguishable and very, quote, attractive, that set them apart from everybody else. You could say Flex Wheeler is a Classic Physique. Mass Monster with the Classic Physique. Why do we think he's one of the greatest in history? And the longer we are further away from him being retired, we consider him possibly the greatest ever in terms of shape, flow, symmetry, muscular, because it's so unique looking. I think 30 years from now, people won't be talking about Dorian Yates winning Olympias. They'll be thinking about, God, that guy named Flex Wheeler. He's just the most magnificent looking physique, and that's classic to me. So it's not to knock George Peterson, and he fits the division. We're just waiting for somebody with a Flex Wheeler type physique to dominate that division. I don't think his physique's more classic looking than some of the people he's beaten in the past. I don't think so it's just that those people who he's beaten have not been at his level of muscularity and conditioning. So, that's the summation of, where he is in the classic division. It doesn't also mean that he's not a worthy winner. I don't want to take that away from him. I think of it this way. Linda Murray, that's like a unique template for women's bodybuilding. It's classic, it's classy. It's like the template for what a female bodybuilder should look like at the beginning of time and the end of time. So anyone who can look most like her, we go crazy over. Who's the girl in the physique division? Shanique
Grant.
I mean, that's
Grant.
the closest. That's the closest we've gotten to Linda Murray, and crazy mass monster bodybuilders appreciate her physique, and classic physique guys do what women do. It's like the most unique look that a woman can achieve. So I think when it comes down to classic, I think unfortunately George is getting some of the dig, because we're waiting for something more classic or better, or just with all the bells and whistles that like a Flex Wheeler has, just shrunken down into that height and that weight.
Fouad, let me go to you. Last time you were on the show, we were talking about Regan Grimes making the decision to go from open class to classic physique, and we had that discussion then as well as far as what exactly classic physique is. When you look at George Peterson and what you saw on the stage this past weekend, in your opinion of classic physique, does he fit that criteria?
I don't know George Peterson, so I don't want to say anything negative about him, but speaking completely objectively, he's a little bodybuilder to me. He's a smaller version of a bodybuilder, just like Reagan would have been. My opinion is similar to Chris's in the sense that you need something. I heard in the opening clip that you guys ran, he was saying something about Franco Columbo. I don't think of Franco Columbo as a classic physique. Yeah, he's from the golden era. He's from that time, but he's not a classic physique. He's a small bodybuilder. And I think George Peterson fits into that category. I think when you're looking for something special, as Chris is talking about, I believe we already have it. Like when I see Steve Laureus on stage, I've never really seen a physique that perfect. It actually fits together very well. Tiny waist, big legs, big arms. My biggest issue with Steve Laureus is his posing is not really polished, and I think it hurts him a lot on stage. But I just don't see, when I look at George Peterson's photos, I feel like he's posing like a bodybuilder. He looks like a bodybuilder. Everything about him says bodybuilder. If he was standing on stage by himself, you wouldn't say that classic physique. If you just saw a picture of him, you would say that guy's a bodybuilder. And I think that's the distinguishing. When I see a picture of Chris Bumstead standing alone, I know that's a classic physique. And I think that's where we have to draw the line somewhere.
Chris, I want to go back to you before I go to Dave, because I want you to clarify a comment that you made in the wrap-up show on Friday night. You talked about the comparison between George Peterson and Steve Laureus. Of course, Laureus with the smaller waist, but again, correct me if I'm wrong, you did say that at the end of the day, it is a muscle competition, that George had the more denser muscle. It's not a, quote, waist competition. Just again, with that comparison in mind, going forward, do you think we're going to see maybe less of the George Peterson build and maybe more of that Steve Laureus, Courage Apara, Keon Pearson type of look on stage in the classic physique division?
Well, you're gonna see more of the guys who got second, third, and fourth than the guy who got first. That's how things work, right? You got George who won, Steve second, what's his Kapara third, and fourth was
Pearson, right?
Pearson. So the guys trailing him second, third, and fourth. If the guy who gets third and fourth really improve their conditioning, and Steve improves 2%, George could drop to fourth because he's the odd one out. In terms of, he won the show on his condition and his density. You can't argue anything but he won that show on density. Maybe not even condition, because Steve Laureus' condition was extremely good. So you can't make the argument that he won the show on anything but muscle and density. So it falls back to Fouad's point that he looks like a bodybuilder. He does have he can fall in, like I said, that's why I started with, he falls into what makes him classic. He meets the height and the weight paradigm that allows him to compete in that division. But I think that puts it into perspective where, how he fares against second, third, and fourth should they improve. So, otherwise, get rid of the guys who got third and fourth, and he beats Steve Laureus, anyone on what? On what?
On his density.
I was right. That's why I had the Aceto University. I got to bring the Aceto University hat back.
But can I say something? Is that
Yeah,
really,
go ahead.
Is that really the way we should be judging Classic? I mean, is it still, because we're still using the same criteria as bodybuilding? Okay, conditioning, muscularity. But I mean, okay, look, so he was denser than Steve Laureus, but Steve Laureus's physique is, I'm sorry, man, it's lights up nicer. Like that was not to me, looking at photos, like I wasn't there, so I can't say for sure, but looking at photos, he was ahead of him easily. And I would have put George second based on the third and fourth place guy not having really good condition at all. But between the two of them, I thought Steve was light years ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Yeah, Dave, I want to go to you because we go back maybe 3-4 years. You were talking about that there needs to be a, quote, classic physique division, something that's maybe a step in between men's physique and the 212 and the open class. So first, I want to get your opinion on what is, quote, classic physique. And then again, based off what you saw Saturday night, does George Peterson fit that modern description of your criteria of classic physique?
Well, here's it in a nutshell. It started as classic physique, which was basically men's physique with posing and with legs showing. Okay, with big, like slightly shorter than board shorts. That's what it was. It was men's physique. The guys were smaller. The weight classes were smaller. In other words, for your height, you had to weigh a lot less. They've expanded 10 pounds over the last couple of years. It's no longer classic physique. It's now classic bodybuilding. And every bodybuilder from back in the 70s and 80s era is a classic bodybuilder. Whether you like their physique or not, that's just the classic look. So George Peterson might have a classic look that's more attuned to Franco Palumbo, whereas Laureus may have a classic look that's maybe attuned to Brian Buchanan. But they're both classic in the sense that if you can make the weight. Now, what we're going to notice is that most guys who look like George Peterson can't make that weight class for their height because George must have like hollow bones or something like that because he looks so much bigger than he really is on a scale that's an illusion that he's able to pull off. You won't see many people who look like that with that much muscle, okay, with that kind of conditioning on a shorter frame that will be able to make, the weight class. Most guys are taller guys that, are not going to, fill out their frame that much because they can't make the weight. Laureus, is definitely a future, deadly competitor out there. He needs a little bit more size. His conditioning was fantastic at this show. His posing could use a little work. We like that frame better, obviously, because it's an X frame, but that doesn't mean it's more classic than Peterson. Peterson made the weight. It's classic. So we had to judge what was up there. In person, I know it doesn't translate in pictures because guys with teeny tiny waists, they don't even need to be in shape, and in pictures they'll look amazing. George was more impressive in person from a muscularity, conditioning, wow factor. Laureus was just more beautiful looking. It's like, looking at a beautiful girl, your eyes are going to go to them, but then at the end of the day, it is a muscle contest. So you got to vote. You got to be able to say who has more complete physique, who has less gaps in their physique. Probably conditioning wise, they were about equal. George had more wow to me in person. I wouldn't have had a problem with either one of them winning the show, but I think that's why the judges went with Peterson. You're not going to see many George Petersons in the classic physique division, like I said, so that's not going to be a problem moving forward. Moving forward, like Chris said, we're looking for the next coming of Jesus Christ in classic bodybuilding, and it'll come. Whether it's going to be Laureus or it's going to be a new guy on the block. I don't think Breon Ansley, while he has all that wow going on, I don't think he's tall enough to really be that dominant guy who's going to win 6 years in a row. I think that we're going to get a guy who's going to be maybe 5'11", along the lines of a Bumstead. I'm not saying it's going to be him, but with that type of physique that will come in with just a ridiculous proportions, and he will just win every single year. We haven't got there yet. We're still evolving the division. If they keep increasing the weight classes, however, they're going to really turn it into bodybuilding, and then there's no going back. So I think that they better keep the weight classes where they are, or you're going to get more guys that don't really fit the quote criteria sneaking in under that weight class. And but I think that the victory for George was well deserved this weekend.
Well, Dave, I wanted to stick with George for a second here because when you interviewed him in the Iron Road to the Arnold Classic, it seemed as if he did seem a little receptive to the idea that maybe classic physique isn't his future and that he might be open to moving to another division. What do you make of that? And do you think that George Peterson perhaps could translate maybe in the 212?
I think the reason he might do that is, number one, he can hold more muscle, and we see how deadly he looks when he's about 10 pounds bigger before he depletes. He looks even freakier, okay? Also, I don't know if George can win the Olympia with the restrictions on his weight being what they are, because these guys are beating him now, and he really can't make any more improvements than he has. So it's kind of, I think he's at a dead end at this point in Classic. It's a good dead end to be. You're the Arnold Classic champion, you're third in the world. He might have aspirations to try to go further. Are there really any dominant 212 guys out there that are that good? There's no Flex Lewis's out there. Maybe he can be the guy to step in and be the next coming, or maybe his physique will get worse. So it's hard to tell where he should go. If I were him, I would test the waters at maybe a New York Pro in the 212 division and see how you do. Try it out. Maybe that is your division. But he has that flexibility to be able to go back and forth, and I would test the waters and see what the judges think and if they're receptive to the way he looks.
Fouad, let's go back to you as an IFBB pro bodybuilder. What you've seen over the last, couple of years ever since this division was instated is that you're starting to see a lot of, either former competitors decide, this is a division for me, or someone who may not have been the mold, I guess, of the modern open class rather. They figured this might be a better suit for them. As you start to get more athletes sifting into the division, do you start to think to yourself, this is still a very much an open book, this division. We don't know what the quote-unquote definition of classic physique is, and that story is going to be written over the next couple of years. Do you see this division evolving rapidly over the next few years as far as the look that we want to see?
Yeah, I think as it gets populated, just like every other class, right? When you had men's physique, the first men's physique Mr. Olympia probably couldn't stand next to anybody top 10 right now. No offense to that guy, but that's kind of how it works, right? As the classes grow and they get populated, guys get better, and certain criteria is established. Now, I don't really know how much better a physique can get, Steve Laureus or whatever, but I feel like they're on the right track with guys like Laureus and Brian, and they're kind of on the right track with that kind of physique. So I don't know how much. There's probably going to be more of those guys, but I don't see it changing from that style, because it's like Dave said, I don't really know how to describe classic physique, but he said Steve Laureus' physique looks beautiful. That's, I think, what you're looking for. And I don't know how to describe it in judging terms, but I think we're kind of already there. We just need more of those guys to be in the class. So it probably will get better as it gets more popular.
Chris, let's go to you. You coach a lot of classic physique athletes, and the one name that always comes to mind when we have this discussion is Henry Pierre Ano. I remember seeing him last year, and the first thought that I had in my head was, this division is like watching X-Men, right? Like, the mutants, and they all have like their different shape. And like, what's your superpower? And somebody shows off what it is that they look like in their mutant form. And again, you being around so many different types of physiques that stick within that division, how do you see this division shaping up over the next 2-3 years, given what we just saw this past weekend and the, I guess, parity between someone like a George Peterson, but then a Steve Laureus, that tall, statuesque figure, and then you're a Keon Pearson, Karjapara, shorter, more sculpted looks. How do you see this thing going in the next 2-3 years?
I think you're going to see in 3 years the equivalent of looking back at the I always call it what is the division, Dave, for God's sakes, board shorts.
Men's physique.
Men's physique. If you look at the men's physique 6 years ago, those guys would get smoked against the guys who are competing right now. And I think two things are going to happen. 3 things. You're going to get a lot of guys coming into Classic who genetically a phenomenal shape. And those guys are going to take it very serious, and they're going to train just like a hardcore bodybuilder, and they're going to get an incredible level of conditioning and muscle density. And because they have the crazy shapes, it's going to be like the little wheeler division, and it's going to take off big time, because take the guy who got 3rd and 4th place, put them with the same condition of Steve and George, and those guys are deadly. Take a Chris Bumstead at his best. He's deadly. Bumstead, deadly. The names, Henry, Pierre, at his best, deadly. Who would want to judge that? There's 8 guys who are absolutely phenomenal physiques. And there's others too. That, when judged together, you get an exciting prejudging. And those are just the names we know. The other guys are going to win the NPC USA this year. The Canadians, they're going to come out of the woodwork, just like the men's physique division had. So you're going to have a ton of people in the class, and it's going to draw in more people, and you're going to get greater genetic gene pool, meaning flow and shape. And the division is going to, I've been saying it from day one. The day it started, it's going to take off, and in terms of what you'll see, and it's going to surprise you. Because, we don't have to be watching. Chris Aceto and Dave Palumbo and Fouad Abiad don't have to get excited over Brandon battling out with, Bonac to appreciate a killer show. If you have those names that I listed at their all-time best, those physiques will suck you in, and you'll be excited about watching the Classic, even though the guys are like, some are 160, 170, 180, or if they're taller, 220 pounds. And that is the future where the bodybuilding is going to go.
Final word, Dave Palumbo, on George Peterson. Back-to-back top 3 finishes at the Classic Physique Olympia. In your opinion, can he give Breon Ansley a run this time around?
I think that, the fact that we're talking about George Peterson so much is good for George Peterson, because it really raises his stock up. Whether some people like him or don't like him, physique-wise we're talking about, he's a great guy. You can't not like him. I'm talking about his physique is another story whatsoever. Can he beat Breon? Yeah, damn right he can. What if Breon comes in a little off? I've never seen Peterson off too much. He's been a little flat. I think they kind of figured out the flatness issue, and I think that he's deadly. He's always going to be right in there in that top group, and so until someone else shows up that's that much better than him, right now he's still one of the men to beat. In that lineup. Bumstead's been fighting health issues. Breon obviously very healthy, took the whole year off just doing the Olympia. He's going to be tough to beat because of that, and he's got a tremendous structure. So I think George could possibly move into that second position this year. But then again, if Laureus improves over the next 6 months before the Olympia, you might see a Laureus with another 3 or 4 or 5 pounds of muscle. That might be enough to beat a George Peterson. So there's a lot of good, exciting things happening in the division. I don't think Peterson is leaving that top 3 anytime soon. However, we don't know. Maybe next year we might see him in that 212 division. I think on his part, if I were him, I'd risk it. I'd go for it. I think you can do it. I think it's something to strive for. I think he's kind of leveled off in this division. He can't really get much bigger and improve much. And for a bodybuilder, we always like to keep getting better and doing more and more. So, if he's happy where he is, then maybe he'll stay there. If he's not and he wants to keep making improvements in the gym, you might see him leave the division.
Fouad, before we wrap, do you know, and if so, when is the next time we're going to see you on stage?
If I can keep this old body healthy, I'm looking at the California Pro in 12 weeks.
Very nice.
Actually, the goal this year is hopefully just to qualify for the Olympia. So if I have to compete at every single show this year and my body could hold up, that's what I'll do. But you never know, man. At 40 and the way I train my whole life, things are breaking down every day. So keep on going, but day by day, and see if I can make it.
We're going to have to bring you on another episode because you owe us a story as far as why you didn't compete in 2018. You said it was an interesting one, so we're going to have to bring you on for a separate episode with that.
Yeah, that's a serious one that I think a lot of younger guys are going to want to tune in for.
Well, I'm sure a lot to be learned from you being really one of the more cerebral bodybuilders in the game, someone that a lot of people have learned a lot from. That's going to do for this episode of Iron Debate. Again, special thanks to Fouad Abiad, Chris the Technician Aceto, Dave Palumbo, and our producer, Tyler Shore. I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.